Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Field Trips vlog. So today I want to talk to you guys about something that I think is extremely important. While it may not be the most exciting topic, I want to talk to you guys a little bit about safety while kayak fishing. So if you saw episode 9, you saw me catch one of the biggest fish of my entire life, an 8-foot sturgeon, while I was salmon fishing. And if you watched till the end, you saw my new buddy Scott Northup flip his kayak. Now the water was freezing cold, the air temps were low, his dry suit actually filled up with water, and while he lost a bunch of gear, it could have been a lot worse. And so I thought this was a perfect time to talk a little bit about some basic safety tips and precautions that you can take to make sure that you can chase big fish like I do and stay safe while you're doing it. I worry that my videos make it look like I just kind of haphazardly jump in my kayak and go chase these big fish without thinking about my safety, but that could not be further from the truth. So the first golden rule of kayak fishing, in my opinion, is to always wear a PFD or a life jacket. Now, I know a lot of states require that you just have them in your boat and they don't make you wear them. And I understand that that's all that's legally required, but I'm a big proponent that you should always have that PFD on your body. The PFD is not really there for those situations where you fall out and you can just easily swim back to your kayak and get back in. That's the argument that I get the most. You know, I know how to swim, I can handle myself, but really the PFD is there for those situations where you lose control of the situation. So anytime you're in current, especially river or something like that, you want to have PFD. You just never know. Water is way more powerful than you realize. If you're offshore and a long way from the beach, I mean, you can get separated from your kayak, it drifts off, now you're adrift at sea with no PFD. And especially if the water's cold, hypothermia sets in way quicker than people realize. It'll make you sluggish, it'll make you slow, and it'll make you make bad decisions. And with that PFD there, it just gives you that little bit of lifeline. It gives you a little bit of support to help you get that situation figured out and get to safety. So again, I understand that legally you may not be required to wear it, but it's not that big of an inconvenience. You know, I liken it to a seatbelt. You don't sit there with a seatbelt in your car and then right before you get in a wreck, you swing it on. It just doesn't work that way. So wear your PFD. You will never see me on the water without one, and that is for very good reason. The next kind of golden rule of kayak fishing, in my opinion, is to always either go with someone else or tell someone where you're gonna be. Scott said so himself in episode 9 that he was glad that we were there to help him get back in the kayak and that he would have been in trouble had we not been. Again, you just never know when the situation's gonna get away from you. I mean, it's not one of those things that you can really predict or plan for, like, well, maybe if this happens, you don't know what's gonna happen. And if something were to happen bad, you want someone to be there to help you out. And if you don't have anyone to go with or you prefer fishing alone, I'm totally on board with that. But you need to let someone know where you are and where you're gonna be and when you're gonna be back so that if you don't show up on time, they can send help to go look for you. So Scott reminded me of another important point, and that is to always dress for the conditions. Now that may seem pretty simple, but you know, even in warm weather, heat stroke is something that can creep up on you, dehydration. You want to wear something that's cool, that's going to wick moisture away from your body, and make sure that you're not getting overheated while you're on the water. Now in cold water, it's a much more dangerous situation. You want to make sure that you're dressed to stay dry, and if you do get wet, you want to have a backup plan. It's actually one of my first times ever out on a kayak. I was in Lake Texoma in February, which is in North Texas, Oklahoma border, and I went out in jeans and a cotton hoodie. Well, sure enough, I got soaking wet and had to beeline it back for the truck, and by the time I got there, I'm pretty sure I was pre-hypothermic. I mean, I was sluggish, couldn't think straight, I stopped shivering essentially. It was a really scary situation and a very good lesson to me early on. So you always want to dress to swim, and if that were to happen, you always want to have a plan B. So anytime I'm out on the water in cold weather or cold water, I always have a spare change of clothes in a dry bag in my front hatch. That way, if I go swimming and get wet, my dry solution fails, or whatever the case may be, I can beeline it to the bank and get out of those wet clothes and put on something dry. I also like to keep a fire starter kit in there as well, so that if for some reason I can't get back to the boat ramp, I have to go land on some beach, I can quickly get a fire going to warm myself up and potentially save my life. And while we're talking about conditions, I mean, this is kind of one of the biggest rules, I would say, for safety, and it's something that I have mistaken in the past and really almost got myself in some serious trouble. If the conditions are bad, just stay home. No fish is worth dying for. It really doesn't make for a fun day on the water if it's super windy or super cold or really rough swell or anything like that. So if the conditions are really bad, just stay home, call it a day, and go back out another day. It's really just not worth it. And while I'm talking about that, always check the forecast. I've been guilty numerous times of going out, not checking the forecast. You know, I had a big trip planned and you got in the mindset of I'm going out no matter what. That is a terrible way to approach any kayak fishing trip. Always check the forecast and be prepared for the worst. Know which direction you need to head in case a storm rolls up on you unexpectedly. So another thing that I thought of while Scott was kind of treading water with his dry suit filling up, trying to figure out how to get his outback flip back over, is that you always want to practice deep water reentry. And what I mean by that is get your kayak, whichever kayak you own, take it out on a warm day in a lake in some calm conditions with no gear on it, and flip it over on purpose. Go swimming and then figure out the best and easiest way to flip that kayak back over. And I really recommend that you do that maybe a dozen times and just kind of make sure that it's second nature, because when you enter stress into any situation, it really hurts your ability to kind of problem solve and figure things out. But if it's kind of second nature because you've done it a lot of times, then even if you've got a lot going on and your mind's all, you know, distracted, you'll be able to flip that kayak back over. And so what I told Scott in the video, with the Outback particularly, I like to get over the side of it, grab the opposite side gunnel, and then throw all my weight back over. And that usually will right the boat right over.
You know how to flip it? The best way I found to flip the Outback, man, is just get over the side of it and grab the opposite end and just throw all your weight back and it'll pop right up.
And then to hop up in it, I kind of grab the opposite side and throw myself as far over as I can to where my belly lands on the seat. And then you can kind of shimmy your way back up into the seat. Now that works really well for the Outback, but not all boats are the same. So again, whatever kayak you have, you really need to get out on the water and practice doing that. And if you have more than one kayak, I highly recommend you do it with each one, because different kayaks behave differently. I know it sounds silly and you don't want to just go out there and get wet, but I'm telling you, you don't want to have to figure that out in a hairy situation. My first time catching a shark from a kayak, a lot of you probably found my channel from this video. I caught my first shark and then flipped. And I ended up being in the water for 3 minutes. And what you can't tell in the video is that my cooler lid was open. So I was then swimming in a pool of mullet blood and chunks in some of the sharkiest waters in Texas. So those 3 minutes felt more like 2 hours. And ever since then, I'm a big proponent of always practice deep water reentry. You don't want to have to figure that out in a hairy situation. So another really good precaution you can take in the event of a flip is to always have a safety knife on your person. And again, it kind of goes the same along the lines of the PFD. If you have a knife in your kayak, that's great, but if you get separated from your kayak, or if you flip and get tangled up in braid or anchor rope or anything like that, you're not gonna be able to get to your kayak to get that knife. So again, I wear the NRS Chinook PFD, and I use their co-pilot knife, which attaches right to the lash tab on the chest of the PFD, so that if I exit my kayak and I get tangled up in something and have to cut something away from myself, I always know that that knife is right here next to my heart and I can grab it in an instant. So I highly, highly, highly recommend getting some kind of safety knife. They make, ankle straps for it. My buddy Nick Weber, he invented leg luggage. It's a really sweet kind of leg wrap made of neoprene. It's really comfortable and it's for all your tools. So you can put your knife and pliers and stuff in there. Figure out a solution that's comfortable and that works well for you, but always have a knife on your body that's easily accessible in the event that you're tangled up in some stuff. And again, I know you're thinking, well, that's not gonna happen to me, but pretty much everyone that's ever died in a kayak probably thought that was never gonna happen to them. And I see reports of people dying in kayaks every single month. It's truly tragic, and 90% of the time they're not wearing a PFD, and I'd say about 98% of the time those accidents were completely avoidable. So always carry a safety knife on you, just in the case of the worst case scenario. So we've all had those days where we're just slaying the fish, catching them left and right, having a blast. It's easy to really get caught up in that and stop paying attention to your surroundings. And that can really be a recipe for disaster. I've seen multiple videos and I've had a few close calls with boaters who weren't paying attention or were drunk and flying right past you. And a lot of the times, while they should get out of the way since they've got a motor, a lot of times they won't. So even if you're having a good time, you're catching big fish, having fun with your buddies, maybe you're drinking on the kayak, whatever the case may be, you wanna always, always be paying attention to your surroundings. And that goes both for boaters and also for weather. A lot of times you can spot a big system or storm coming in offshore, maybe that the weatherman missed, and you wanna make sure that you're paying attention in all directions so that you can see something like that coming and avoid a potential disaster. All right guys, so those are my basic tips for fishing from a kayak in a safe way. Now, I know this isn't the most exciting topic, but it's something that's really important to me, especially with all the comments and messages I get from people saying, oh my gosh, that looks like so much fun, I wanna go do that. I really worry that a lot of times my videos make it look like I'm just winging it and just hopping on the kayak and going after these big fish, and that could not be farther from the truth. There are a ton of precautions that I take, and so hopefully this video helps you guys learn a few of these lessons the easy way instead of my preferred method, the hard way. Hope you guys took a little something away from this video, and if you have anything else to add, any other things that you like to do to make sure that you and your friends are safe on the water, please comment below. I would love to hear any more ideas that you have, and hope you guys enjoy the video, and I'll catch you on the next one.